Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Tech This Week. My name is Apalak. Hope all of you are keeping well. So, today's episode, I'm going to talk about something that the world is talking about. Yeah. So, I admit I'm going to talk about intelligence today, not necessarily artificial intelligence alone. Let's start off with intelligence, you know, and I'll take all of you back, say 20, 30 years back. And for decades, if you think of it, intelligence, the concept of intelligent being was confined to few people, right? Intelligence was seen as a scarcity, right? There were very few people who could probably think deeply, analyze problems, and make informed decisions. And we all paid, for the expertise. We hired for knowledge, and organizations were built around this decision-making capability, So the smartest people obviously had the biggest advantage. And in many ways, intelligence itself was a moat, right? And that's why we've had such very, very successful firms whom we all reach out to gain their intelligence, so as to say. But something fundamental has changed. Today, intelligence, or in other words, the ability to write, analyze, code, summarize, and think is becoming widely accessible. You don't need to be an expert to draft a strategy note, right? You don't need years of experience to analyze data. You don't need deep technical skills to write codes. AI is making these capabilities available to almost everyone, right? So the question that I raised today, which I'm sure many of you would have raised or heard, but I'll have a different take to this as we go through the conversation, is if everyone has access to intelligence, then what actually becomes valuable? Because, we are under the illusion of equal capability. Because at first glance, this feels like, a leveling of the playing field. If everyone has access to the same tools, shouldn't outcomes start to look similar? But reality tells us otherwise. And when I was thinking about this podcast, I thought of an analogy, right? I follow Formula One. And Formula One today is one of the most technologically advanced sports in the world. Cars are engineered with extreme precision. Teams rely heavily on data, simulations, and process optimizations, right? They do same things day in and day out. So every aspect of performance is measured and then refined. So in many ways, the sport has become highly mechanized and system driven. And yet, this is a big yet, not every driver is a Michael Schumacher, right? So even when teams operate within very, very tight technical regulations, even when cars are built using very similar scientific principles, the quality of the driver still matters, right? Why? Because performance is not just about the machine. We know that. And anybody who's followed Formula One would know that. It's about judgment in high pressure moments, split second decision making. Very important, adaptability to changing conditions. So the car enables performance, no denying that, but the driver defines it. So that brings us back to the context of AI. We are entering a similar phase with intelligence. AI, think AI as a car, the enabling layer. It provides speed, capability, in AI's parlance, access to knowledge. But the outcomes still depend on the driver, and the real value shifts to how we look at judgment, context, and last but not least, the ability to ask the right questions. And this probably, perhaps, is the most underrated skill. In a world, where answers are easy, if you think of it, questions become the real leverage. So even if AI becomes available to everyone, human intelligence will always be the differentiator. And with this, if I had to conclude this, you would have thought, what new have I spoken? Because I think you have to understand, and I'll continue, the biggest shift here is of perspective. Because if you see in so many news articles, we tend to frame it as AI versus humans. But actually, that's not happening. What we are seeing is AI expanding the surface of human capability. It's not replacing human intelligence. Please be mindful. It's augmenting it. I'll give you another example of medical profession. Advancement in imaging, diagnostics, and data have transformed healthcare. We know it. We accept it, right? Doctors today have access to more information than ever before. But has that reduced the need of doctors? Tell me, right? If anything, it has actually increased because interpreting complex data requires expertise, making treatment decision requires judgment, and handling edge cases requires experience. So technology did not replace doctors. On the contrary, it made them more capable. And I'll give one more example. This is the financial markets. Everyone has access to data, research, and analytical tools. Yet, not everyone generates the same outcomes, right? If everybody had the same data, everyone would have made money equally. Is it happening? No. Because success depends on interpretation, timing, risk assessment, and conviction. Again, understand, access is equal, but outcomes are not. The real shift is not about replacement, no, it's about amplification. But amplification, and this is where it is my take, and it's departure from the way you probably thought this would conclude, is amplification has an interesting consequence. It doesn't make everyone equally powerful, right? Understand? Actually, it often widens the gap because those who already have, say, better judgment, deeper context, stronger intuition can now operate at a completely different level. And that leads to a more, uncomfortable question because we were all led to believe that AI will democratize intelligence. Is that really happening? Or is it actually amplifying inequality, helping the already capable pull further ahead? And I'll give you an example which will correlate to, because you've heard that, you've seen that. A similar pattern play out in the real world. When you look at economic growth and development for a nation, for a society, it is supposed to lift everyone up. That's what it is supposed to do. But in reality, what happens? The rich get richer faster, and the disparity actually widens. Not because others don't have access to opportunity, but because the rich are better positioned to capture it. And whether we like it or not, I don't know whether what I'm going to conclude is hold out true in the future, but AI probably may be following the same pattern because access creates possibility, agreed, but capability determines outcome, and that capability still resides with the human, right? Think of it. This interested me, made me think a lot on this, and hopefully we'll hear more from me on this area. But for now, it's a wrap. Have a lovely week ahead.